So today I'd like to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm going to simply walk through the steps of what I do for researching some issue like this, but you're going to see real time what I do, so you'll get to see it. And let's see. So let me get this loaded up here into the second screen. Okay, so you can see my screen here. I've typed in ingredients of COVID vaccines. I put plural on there, right, for a reason. All right, so you can see me. Ingredients of COVID vaccines. Now, you can see I visited the first three here. That's what I did, and then I thought I better just share this with everyone. And you can see that the first two hits are the FDA. That's the Federal Drug Administration of the United States. And they're not always reliable, but that's what we have, okay? Then we have the CDC, Center for Disease Control. That's also regulated by the United States. So these first three hits are controlled by the United States government. So, however much stock you want to put in that is up to you. Maybe you think that's a reliable source. Maybe you think that's an unreliable source, a compromised source, especially when it comes to a vaccine and big money. Let's go ahead and have a look at what we've got, though. Now, I can tell you already, this first one, when I point to the link, if you look down here in the left corner down below here, you'll see the link show up as a pop-up down here. So I hover over it, and you can see it says google.com/URL blah, 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 blah. So we don't know what that is. It points to FDA Gov. You can see about midway in that string, that's what it points to. So we don't really know what it points to. I know that this is a PDF. And actually it says right here, PDF. See right here? It says PDF. This one's a PDF. The next one's not a PDF. Well, I have my browser set to automatically download a PDF when I click on it. For example, if I click on this, so it just leaves me here. Okay. But it's downloaded the PDF anyway. And the same with this one. So if I middle click, it'll open it in a fresh browser, but then you got your downloads here. You can see I've downloaded multiple times because each time I click on that link, it automatically downloads it. And you've got both of them, the Pfizer and the fact sheet for Moderna, I think is what that is. Yeah, Moderna. And then this one actually opens to a location at the CDC. So let's first deal with the PDFs. I'm going to open the Pfizer first. So we'll just open that. Wait for it to open here. There it is. Fact sheet for recipients and caregivers. Emergency use authorization of Pfizer BioNTech. N stands for nanotechnology. NTech is nanotechnology. Those are microscopic machines. And machine is not necessarily made of metal. Right? We think of machines as being made of metal and plastic. Well, it's a biological construction or biochemical construction that is set to do specific things and generate specific results. And so that's basically what it is. So it looks like a machine in terms of its planning and architecture, what it's doing and how it creates results. But it's literally a biochemical machine. So that's why BioNTech, bio-nanotechnology. So nano just means tiny. So Pfizer is a pharmaceutical company. BioNTech, biological or biochemical, nano meaning tiny technologies, tiny biochemical technology. So now you understand NTech and BioNTech. COVID-19 vaccine to prevent coronavirus. Okay. COVID-19 vaccine to prevent coronavirus. This is a mistake, actually. To prevent coronavirus disease 2019. And the reason why this is a mistake is that they're claiming that in the UK, they've already seen mutations of the COVID-19. It's not a new COVID. Mutations of the COVID-19, which would not be covered by this vaccine. That's what they said. So, in individuals 16 years of age and older, that's very interesting. Now, if they're restricting the use of it in people who are 16 years and older, that's one thing. But this is saying it's a vaccine that prevents coronavirus only in individuals 16 years of age and older, which is a lie. So they've already lied on this fact sheet. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not here to promote that. I'm here simply with my background in biology, additional background in physics, and coming here to analyze this, okay? You are being offered, so that suggests that you're not being forced. Now, if they are coercing you by saying you're not going to be able to fly on planes unless you can prove that you've had this, then it's not offered. Now, they can get around that by saying, well, but you have an option of Moderna, which isn't true. Because I think that Pfizer and Moderna have certain regions that they have negotiated. So like, geographical regions where you can only get Pfizer or you can only get Moderna. I'm not sure about that. So maybe some of you can comment down below and say what you found out about that. You're being offered, I really don't like the way they worded that, the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease 2019 caused by SARS-CoV-2. This fact sheet contains information to help you understand the risks and benefits of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which you may receive because there is currently a pandemic of COVID-19. Okay? The Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is a vaccine and may prevent you from getting COVID-19. Now, this says may prevent you. Okay? May prevent. This up here says to prevent. Okay? So this is a declaration here in the title that this is the intention of it, is to prevent. We were talking about how it says may prevent you from getting COVID-19, and up here it says to prevent. So up here it's a declaration that it prevents, and down here it is trying to play it safe by saying that it may or may not. And it adds, there is no U.S. Food and Drug Administration FDA approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. So it is saying that it is not an FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. And yet this says to prevent coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19. So they have just lied to you. Here it says it is to prevent that. Emergency use authorization. And this is from the FDA. Keep it in mind. This is from the FDA, emergency use authorization. That means that the FDA has approved the vaccine, and it says to prevent coronavirus disease 2019. They are absolutely 100% lying to you right here in their fact sheet. There is no US FDA approved vaccine. It is approved because it's approved for emergency use. That's what authorization means, is that it is approved. Emergency use authorization to prevent COVID-19, to prevent COVID-19. And it says here, there is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. They just lied to you. Flat up lied to you. Read this fact sheet for information about Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Okay. Talk to the vaccination provider if you have questions. I guarantee you they will not answer your questions. They will dance around and give you general questions and then just brush you off. It is your choice to receive the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Well, if they're going to start denying you access to government programs based on whether you've had the vaccine or not, then it is not your choice. And I've already heard news of this from the government, that they're planning on limiting citizens, American citizens' access to government programs based on whether they've received the vaccine or not. We'll see if that happens or not. They haven't done that yet, but they're talking about it. That would mean that this is another lie. The Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is administered as a 2-dose series 3 weeks apart into the muscle. intramuscular. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine may not protect everyone. There you go again, saying that it does protect someone. Therefore, it is a vaccine to prevent COVID-19. And yet they say it may not protect everyone, implying that it protects some. And yet they said that there is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. Yet here they're saying again that it does protect some. This fact sheet may have been updated. For the most recent fact sheet, please see this, cvdvaccine.com. And you're thinking, well, let's go check. Copy the link address. I'd rather do it this way. Global information about Pfizer-BioNTech 19 vaccine, also known as BNT162b2. That's the first time I've heard that. So it's important to keep this in mind because they may clandestinely put information out under this code name so that people don't recognize it's about the Pfizer vaccine. This is the kind of tricks that the government and the big pharma do for us. The approval status of the vaccine varies worldwide. In countries where the vaccine has not been approved by the relevant regulatory authority, it is an investigational drug. And its safety and efficacy, that means the ability to actually do something, right? Its safety and its ability have not been established. So if it hasn't been approved by the relevant authority in the country, then it is an experimental drug. They don't use the word experimental because it has a negative term to it. Investigational. It's not an investigational drug. They're not detectives. They're scientists. Therefore, it's an experiment. And you are the guinea pig. So in those countries where it hasn't been approved, which is what that fact sheet just said about the FDA, that the FDA has not approved it, and yet it's approved for emergency use. That means that you are an experiment. They do not know, and they are experimenting with the population. As country information may vary, please choose the country below in which you are a licensed healthcare professional for more information on the vaccine. This site is intended for healthcare professionals only. I am not a healthcare professional. Okay, all right. So let's start with I'm not a healthcare professional. Okay, we'll go to United States. I middle clicked it and that opens in a new tab. I'm going to do the same for the professional. We're going to look at each one. This is non-professional here. Oh, beautiful. Doesn't show us anything. It's so badly programmed. Look, labelingpfizer.com. All right, let's try it without middle clicking and see what happens. Nothing. Close that, open it again. Nothing. It's so badly programmed that you can't even get the information that they're suggesting they are providing. Over here for the professionals, the EUA fact sheets have been updated 12/30/2020 and 1/5/2021, but are not limited to the following sections in fact sheets, and so it tells what's been updated. So additional language they added under management of acute allergic reactions. Monitor the vaccine recipients for the occurrence of immediate adverse reactions according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention guidelines. We'll have a look at that. Well, if it'll let us open it. No, it won't. All right. Oh, I still can't middle click this. Oh, because it's opening itself in that way. All right, and over here, administration information. After dilution, vials of vaccine contain 6 doses of 0.3 milliliters of vaccine. Low dead volume syringes and or needles can be used to extract 6 doses from a single vial. If standard syringes and needles are used, there may not be sufficient volume to extract a sixth dose from a single vial. Irrespective of the type of syringe and needle, each dose must contain 0.3 milliliters of vaccine. If the amount of vaccine remaining in the vial cannot provide a full dose of 0.3 milliliters, discard the vial and any excess volume. Do not pool excess vaccine from multiple vials. Don't mix them together to make a full amount. Okay. The product is only authorized for the duration of the declaration that circumstances exist justifying the authorization of emergency use of the medical product under section of the FD&C Act unless the declaration is terminated or authorization revoked sooner. Here, do not administer the vaccine to individuals with known history of a severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, to any component of the Pfizer vaccine. Component. Let's have a look at that. And yeah. Here it is. So each dose of the Pfizer vaccine contains 30 micrograms of nucleoside modified messenger RNA, encoding the viral spike glycoprotein of SARS-CoV-2. Okay? It also includes the following ingredients. So you've got a list of ingredients here that are contained within it. And the first thing I looked for when I came here and looked at these ingredients was for sulfates, but there's also tons of phosphate in here if you take a look. So you got this this phosphate here, you got this phosphate here. So you got at least two of them that are phosphate based as components in this vaccine. Now, one thing that you can do, which I haven't done, is you can go ahead and look up each one of these components and see what you find there. See if there's anything significant. But let me warn you, here's also phosphate here. I knew there was a third one. Phosphocholine. That means it's got phosphate combination. Let me warn you though, because I've watched videos of Christians who are doing this. And they're piecing one thing here with one thing here, and one thing here and there, and over here and over here, and then they're coming up with the sentence. And what they come up with doesn't make any sense in relationship to where they've taken it from. They'll take things out of context, just like the Once Saved, Always Saved do, about their false gospel, and they take, individual verses out of context and stitch them together and say, see? And of course, the thing itself makes sense, right? But it doesn't relate to the context where it came from. So that's the same thing that's happening with Christians. They'll come and they'll do this process. And because they don't have any background in either biology or chemistry or biochemistry, and they're looking at these components, they don't know what to make of it. And their conclusions are completely off base. So be careful with that. Because today everyone disrespects authorities in fields and say, everyone's corrupted. No one's going to give me straight information. I got to do it myself. And I've had plenty of education where I can figure this out myself and I can read it and I can understand. Hydroxy, that means it has hydrogen and oxygen. Oh yeah, so, hydrogen plus oxygen is water, right? So, no. Hydrogen plus oxygen is not water. But what about H2O? You notice the 2 in there, right? That means it's 2 hydrogens per 1 oxygen. And it's not combined with anything else. This says hydroxybutyl. All right, so there's something else combined with the hydrogen and the oxygen. And it says 4 dash. So you have no idea what you're talking about. When you take hydroxy out of the middle of that, you say, see, it's hydrogen and oxygen. That means it's just water. This is the kind of games that I see being played. So glycol. Polyethylene glycol. Oh, that's some sort of alcohol, all glycol. It's an alcohol. It's just an alcohol. It's harmless, right? And they don't understand. They don't understand what they're saying. Notice that that is hyphenated. It's a 2 with polyethylene glycol in between -2000. What does the 2000 mean? Do you know what the 2000 means? Or what that nomenclature means? Dash in. What is dash in? Do you have any clue what that means? Have you ever seen that nomenclature before? If you haven't, then shut your mouth. Don't go around spreading lies, deceit, harmful information. It is not right. And you know it's not right. Everyone knows that's not right. So don't do it. So this is how to administer the drug. Okay. Gives instructions on how to do it. Do not use if liquid is discolored or if other particles are observed. So if you are going to take the vaccine, ask them to look at the vial first. Make sure it's not like discolored. It says that it should be white or off-white. It says inspect the liquid in the vial prior to dilution. The liquid is a white to off-white suspension and may contain white to off-white opaque amorphous particles. So it may have some particles, okay? But they're going to be white to off-white in color. It says do not use the liquid if it's discolored, like not white or not off-white, or if other particles are observed. So if there's anything other than these very amorphous means without any shape. They're not a particular shape. So they're not round, they're not cylindrical, they're just a shape that you can't describe, like some sort of, amorphous without shape. And it's white to off-white, and it looks like it's suspended in the liquid. That's what it should look like. If it looks like anything else, tell them, I don't want you to use that vial on me. Can you choose another vial? And if they say no, then walk out. Okay? This says obtain sterile 0.9% sodium chloride injection, USP. Use only this as the diluent. Dilutant. There's a T missing. Using aseptic technique, withdraw, that means disinfecting it. Withdraw 1.8 milliliters of diluent into a transfer syringe, 21 gauge or narrower needle. Cleanse the vaccine vial stopper with a single-use antiseptic swab. Add 1.8 milliliters of 0.9 sodium chloride injection USP into the vaccine vial. It says equalize vial pressure before removing the needle from the vial by withdrawing 1.8 milliliters of air into the empty diluent syringe. Gently invert the vial, and this tells you what they should be doing right in front of you. And if they're not doing this, then you tell them you're not following proper procedure. This is for the Pfizer vaccine. If you're taking the Moderna, I haven't read that yet, but this is for Pfizer. And so you can read through this. Gently invert the vial containing the Pfizer vaccine 10 times to mix, not shaking it. It says do not shake, but you're holding it upright, right? And you're holding it upright and you turn it upside down and back up. That's 1, 2, 3, and gently. And if they don't do it gently, say, I'm out of here. They must follow this exactly. Inspect the vaccine in the vial. The vaccine will be an off-white suspension. Do not use if vaccine is discolored or contains particulate matter, like other kind of particles in it. Record the date and time of dilution on the Pfizer vaccine vial label. Store between 2 degrees and 25 degrees. Discard any unused vaccine 6 hours after dilution. So they may have some already done, right? But it should say on there when it was diluted. It says right here that they're supposed to write the date and time that they did that dilution. So ask them to see the vial. If they're not going to do that in front of you, ask them to see the vial and the date of dilution. And if it doesn't have it on there, then walk out. Say you're not following proper procedures. And so I can't trust that you're doing this correctly. Okay? It's important. You need to educate yourself on these things and be ready. Now this says preparation of individual 0.3 milliliter doses. It says use an aseptic technique, cleanse a vial stopper with a single-use antiseptic swab, and withdraw 0.3 milliliters of the vaccine, preferentially using low dead volume syringes and or needles. Each dose must contain 0.3 milliliters of vaccine. If the amount of vaccine remaining in the vial cannot provide a full dose of 0.3 milliliters, discard the vial and any excess volume administer immediately. Now it says how they administer it. Okay. It says visually inspect each dose in the dosing syringe prior to administration. The vaccine will be in off-white suspension during the visual inspection, meaning that even though they visually inspect the vial, they should also visually inspect the vaccine inside the syringe after they've extracted it. And still, it has to be this white to off-white suspension. And if there's anything else in there, or it's a different color, they cannot use it. Okay? Verify the final dose volume of 0.3 milliliters. Okay? So you might even want to ask them to show you and make sure it's 0.3 milliliters, not more. Confirm there are no particulates and that no discoloration is observed. They say it again. Do not administer if vaccine is discolored or contains particulate matter. It says it again. So if the person who's administering you this shot does not repeatedly inspect for particulate matter and discoloration, get up and walk out. Demand that you see the vial and you inspect it yourself for discoloration. It should be white to off-white. And inspect to see those particles inside, that they're not of any certain shape and that they are white to off-white. If there's any discoloration of the liquid or the particles, walk out. Ask them once they take it out into the syringe, again, to look at it and inspect it for those reasons, because there could be something in the syringe. For example, when they get the syringe, make sure that they take it out of a fresh package that's sealed. One person I knew who went in to get their blood drawn, right? The person did not take that syringe out of a fresh package and she walked out. She says, I'm not letting you put that in my arm. And she walked out. So you need to do the same kinds of things. You need to keep a watch on these workers because they get tired and they get lazy and they cut corners. You need to make sure, because it's your body. No one else is going to care about it. Your doctor's not going to care about it. You're just a number to him. You're a statistic. If the chances are low enough, the risks are low enough, he'll do anything to you. But it's your body. And if you become a statistic, then, it's your body. And it can be permanent. It can even be fatal. All right. So they say do not pool excess vaccine from multiple vials. Don't take from one vial, extract it, and then put it into another vial to make 0.3 milliliters. That's what they're saying. Don't combine what's left over in vials to make 0.3 milliliters. If there's not enough in either vial, throw them away. That's what it says. So most of this is just repetitious. It says the same kind of things like, important safety information, right? There is a little bit extra here. Do not administer the vaccine to individuals with known histories of severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, to any component in the vaccine. Appropriate medical treatment used to manage immediate allergic reactions must be immediately available in the event of anaphylactic shock. So you ask them beforehand, I want to know that you have what is necessary to manage an anaphylactic reaction. Because you may not know that you have that kind of reaction to one of the components because you may have never had those components. And so you need to make sure that they have what's necessary to manage that in case you do have an anaphylactic reaction, because that can be deadly. Monitor vaccine recipients for the occurrence of immediate adverse reactions according to the CDC and prevention guidelines. Immunocompromised persons, including individuals receiving immunosuppressant therapy, may have a diminished immune response to the vaccine. Okay, so if you are a person who knows that you are immunocompromised, you have a lower immune system because of some reason, like I myself do. I had all the lymph nodes cleared out from this side of my neck, and I don't have a thyroid. So I'm in this case an immunocompromised person. I need to be careful about these things, in addition to having that fatal reaction to sulfa drugs. The Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine may not protect all vaccine recipients. They've said that before. In clinical studies, adverse reactions in participants 16 years of age and older included pain at the injection site. 84% of those who had a reaction, that was the reaction. Fatigue, like feeling exhausted, 62%, almost 63% had that reaction. A headache, 55%. So you can see that these percentages do not add up, right? So that means that there's overlap. Some people had multiple reactions. Muscle pain, 38%, chills, 32%, joint pain, 24%, fever, 14%, injection site swelling, 10.5%, injection site redness, 9.5%, nausea, 1%, malaise, 0.5%, and lymphadenopathy, 0.3%. And you say, what is that? Don't worry about it. It's 0.3%. That's what your doctor would say, right? But what if you are in that 0.3% and you don't know what that is? So what do? We double click that word, Control C, or if you're on Mac, it's the Command C. That copies it into memory. Okay, and here it is a disease of the lymph nodes in which they are abnormal in size or consistency. Okay, so it's swelling of the lymph nodes. It's a swelling of the lymph nodes. So let's go back here. Where were we? Oh, we're in the PDF, right? No, we're not in the PDF. We're on the CDC website, right? Here we go, right? So right here, that was this word here. It's a swelling of the lymph nodes. So severe allergic reactions have been reported following the vaccine during mass vaccination outside of clinical trials. So aside from the trials they had, the very, very, very few clinical trials they had, very quick ones, they have noticed also severe allergic reactions just out in the field. Additional adverse reactions, some of which may be serious, may become apparent with more widespread use of the vaccine, meaning they don't know what other kind of even more serious problems can arise from vaccination, because perhaps there are people who are going to have even more severe, maybe even fatal reactions to the vaccine, and they just simply haven't reached them yet in the population. Available data on the COVID-19 vaccine administered to pregnant women are insufficient to inform vaccine-associated risks in pregnancy. Therefore, if you're pregnant, do not take the vaccine. They have no clue what that's going to do, either to you as the mother or to your infant. Data are not available to assess the effects of vaccine on breastfed infant or on milk production excretion. Very important. So if you are a mother and you are breastfeeding, do not get the vaccine. They have no clue how that vaccine is going to affect the milk that's being produced for the baby and the effect on the baby. All right, so there are no data available on the interchangeability of the vaccine with other vaccines to complete the vaccination series. In other words, they don't know if you can start with the Pfizer vaccine and complete the round of vaccinations with Moderna, for example. Individuals who have received one dose of Pfizer should receive a second dose of Pfizer vaccine to complete the vaccination series. Don't mix and match. That's what they're saying. And that's true. That's true. If you're going to do it, you need to make sure you don't mix and match. Vaccination providers must report adverse events in accordance with the fact sheet to VAERS at this government website, or by calling this toll-free number. The report should include the words Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine EUA in the description section of the report. Vaccination providers should review the fact sheet for information to provide blah, 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 blah. Please see emergency use authorization fact sheet for healthcare providers administering vaccine, including full EUA prescribing information available here. Then it says ensuring the authenticity of the vaccine. And it tells how to identify that by the labels, okay? And if you think it may be counterfeit, you need to contact these places. So that's what they've put out here. There's a fact sheet for healthcare providers administering it, fact sheet for recipient and caregivers. We couldn't get that before. Let's see if we can get that now. Oh, that is what we already had. It's the same. All right, so we got off onto that because we followed this link here for the most recent fact sheet. Some of their links don't work. Some of them do. It's confusing where you end up sometimes. What you need to know before you get this vaccine. What is COVID-19? COVID-19 disease is caused by a coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2. This type of coronavirus has not been seen before. Before what? You can get COVID-19 through contact with another person who has the virus. It is predominantly a respiratory illness that can affect other organs. Well, in fact, we don't know if you can get it by contact with another person who has the virus. We don't know that. They're assuming that. They are absolutely assuming it. They have not studied that in the laboratory and actually verified it. There are many assumptions here that are carried over from experience with other viruses that they're totally assuming in this. In fact, if you remember, if you were paying attention, that they have reversed, like not just changed a little bit, but completely reversed their decision about certain things about how the virus behaves. They were saying that it's transferred by vapor, water particles that come from your breath, your nose, your mouth, and hang in the air, a suspension, or from projectiles. Because when you speak, there are projectiles sometimes that come out. You don't even notice them. They're so small. But it can be transferred that way. It can be transferred also. Actually, they were first saying projectiles only. Then they came up with this explanation that, oh, well, some of the vapors hang in the air, and that can be transferred that way. But they didn't say that at first. They were only saying about projectiles only. They were saying about transfer by contact, but then later they changed that. They said, well, it's only by certain substances where the virus tends to have a longer lifespan. And so fabric it doesn't, and metal and plastics it does. And so they had, these different kind of materials that they said the virus would live longer on and shorter on. And they hadn't studied that in the laboratory. They hadn't studied it in the laboratory. And so they didn't really know that. They were guessing about that. And yet they were putting it out there. And so, of course, we're hearing it. We're saying, well, it must be true. They must have a reason for believing that. They didn't have a reason. They were simply, it was pure conjecture. The same with the projectiles versus water vapors. And then later they said, also, some of it can be transferred by being carried on the wind with pollution particles. And before they were saying the only ways it could be transferred through the air was by projectile. That was the first thing. Then they added by the water vapor from your breath hanging in the air. So that's why they said the 6 feet distance. Okay, 6 feet distance minimum 6 feet, right? Because that water vapor and projectiles. And so, but they don't address this issue, is that when people are mobile, like in the grocery store or on the sidewalk or, in the grocery store, they're going to be wearing a mask, right? Yeah? Have you watched how they wear those masks? None of these masks fit, right? None of them. Even the surgical masks that have the bending metal piece, I can't get it to seal around my nose. If I have my glasses on, they're always fogging. No matter what I do, I can't get it to seal around my nose, to my cheeks. And so there's always this. So that means my glasses are fogging up. How are they fogging up? What is that material fogging my glasses? It's water vapor. Where's that water vapor coming from? The air? No, from my mouth. It's coming up through the mask and the cheeks and fogging my glasses, which means without my glasses, it's still going up out there. So mask or no mask, you still have that water vapor coming out and hanging in the air. You don't have the projectiles. That's the only thing that mask does, is it stops projectiles. That's it. It doesn't stop the vapors from the mask at all. Not only that, it doesn't protect you because your ears are open, and anything that goes in your ears can infect your body. Your eyes are exposed. Anything with contact with the liquid in your eyes can infect you. So, and if I'm breathing vapor out the top here, then that means also when I'm breathing in, I'm breathing stuff in that's not being filtered by the mask. The mask isn't going to filter the virus anyway. They've said that repeatedly. It doesn't filter the virus. But if they're saying that the virus is transferred in water vapors and pollution particulates, and if those are filtered out by the mask, why would they say that the mask doesn't prevent the virus from coming through if it needs to ride on these particulate matters? This shows where they're absolute morons. They're not even thinking about what they're saying. They are not thinking. And it proves because they've had to switch their position back and forth on many different things so that they're actually contradicting themselves. They have no clue. They don't have any idea. If they did, we wouldn't still be in this pandemic at this point a year later. Government said it was safe flying those people in from China, the Americans in from China, to the Air Force Base near where I lived in Riverside. This was in January of last year. Within less than 2 weeks, I got infected with COVID. I was deathly ill for 12 days. I was unconscious for 2 days. I could not stay awake. I kept falling into unconsciousness. Once or twice I got up and was able to make it to the bathroom with help. But then I had to lay back down, and as soon as I did, I was out again. 48 hours. And they swore that bringing those people back from China, they swore that that would not infect the population. They even isolated them for 14 days. And yet the population got infected. There. Because that Air Force Base was only a few miles from where I lived. And I got infected within 2 weeks. Not only that, many people I talked to in the grocery store also had gotten infected. Many of them. And it was the same thing, about 12 or 14 days of illness and some period in between that was extremely bad. And I'd gone to the clinic twice during that time. And they didn't know what to look for. They weren't looking for COVID because the government said it couldn't spread. They'd isolated the people. They said that it wasn't going to spread because of that. And so they weren't looking for COVID at that time. And so they prescribed me some sort of inhaler. Big deal. Inhaler. I used it, I think, for 2 days and then threw it away. It was useless. My solution after researching it was this. And I'm not telling you this will cure COVID. I'm telling you this is how I helped my body to ride through the illness. Number one, I used an old remedy that's from Eastern Europe. That if you talk to the grandmas over there, they all suggest this, and it works. For any kind of illness, it'll help support your body against that illness, the immune system. Raw garlic. You cut it up into slices or dice it up into small pieces. If you can't just eat it straight, most people can't. I can. I actually swallow the things. I cut it all up and then put it and swallow the whole thing with water. Not a whole clove. I've cut it up and then I swallow all those pieces together with water. That's what I do now. But some people need to put it on bread. So you put some butter on the bread and then you put the raw garlic, not cooked, raw garlic, make, like 1 or 2 cloves and eat that bread. And you do this 2 or 3 times a day. And by the morning or the middle of the second day, whatever was coming on you will be gone. Your immune system will have been boosted enough to take care of that. Another thing that I read was at the University of Manila in the Philippines, they're doing research with coconut oil as a protectant against the COVID virus. I don't know if it does or not. They're still experimenting, but they say that there's some good results so far. So what I did was I bought coconut oil, and once a day I'd eat 1 spoonful. That's it. And so it's not going to hurt you if you eat 1 spoonful of coconut oil. So I ate that a day and each day, and then I took my garlic, and that helped a lot. Now, when that COVID hit, I had forgotten about all that stuff, and I just got sick. And so I if you don't take it at the beginning also, that garlic, if you don't hit it right when the signs start to come on of whatever it is that you're dealing with, cold or flu, then it's not going to take care of it. It'll be too late. So you have to get it right at the beginning, and then your immune system will be boosted and will kick it out and will stop it. Now, I don't know whether that will help with COVID or not. I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying that this is a long recognized remedy that dates back thousands of years, that garlic has been used for this purpose, and it works if you do it at the right time and the right amount and the right frequency. It's just like with medicine, right? But this is natural. So just be aware of that. So it says here, this type of coronavirus has not been seen before. You can get COVID-19 through contact with another person who has the virus. Okay, like I said, we don't know that for sure. They haven't actually experimented and proven that. They're just assuming that. And people are going to let into me and say, how do you say that? Of course they're spread that. Of course they are. The of course is what worries me, right? Who are you to say of course they are? Who are you? Who are you to say of course it is? It is predominantly a respiratory illness that can affect other organs. So the lungs primarily. People with COVID-19 have had a wide range of symptoms reported, ranging from mild symptoms to severe illness. Symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. Symptoms may include fever or chills. I had those. Cough, shortness of breath. I had those. Fatigue. Well, I described that already. Muscle or body aches. Absolutely. Headache. Most severe headache. I don't have headaches at all. And I had the most severe headache. New loss of taste or smell, sore throat, definitely sore throat, congestion or runny nose, yep, nausea or vomiting, yep, diarrhea, I don't remember that. But I had almost all of these symptoms, and very badly. So then it asks what the vaccine is. It is an unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. There is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. Okay, so, well, clearly this is FDA approved for emergency use, EUA, emergency use authorization. It is FDA approved. No matter how many times they tell you it's not, it is FDA approved for this usage, EUA, emergency use authorization. It is FDA approved. I can't say that enough times. They are lying to you. They say the vaccine is an unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19, but up above, they say that it may not protect everyone, meaning it does protect someone. Therefore, it does prevent COVID-19, just not in every person, but nothing prevents anything in every person. So that's a moronic statement to make. No matter what you're talking about, there is no single substance that will prevent some specific thing in every single person. There's all this biological variation, and I know people don't realize that because we learn sanitized science in school. So we don't realize what the real world is really about. Every biological organism varies so much, and when you look at the diversity between all the different tiny mechanisms throughout the body and the organs and the way they're made and the shapes and the numbers even of them inside of each person can vary dramatically. When I had the thyroid taken out, there are these organs, small organs that are on the side of the thyroid called parathyroids. Para means alongside. And they function mostly to control the calcium in the body. Well, I asked the doctor, how are they? And he says, well, after the operation, he says, you got 1.5 left. I said, 1.5? Well, one of them was damaged in the operation, but we put it in one of the muscles and it functions. These can be put anywhere in the body and they'll just function. And so I said, well, how many am I supposed to have? He says, well, the numbers vary dramatically from person to person. They can be 2, they can be 4, they can be 6, 8. They don't know. They said generally it's 4, but there is no real average. This is the most varying number of any organ in the body, the greatest variety of numbers of the organs. So from each person to person is different. It's completely different. There's no norm. So we don't realize that about bodies. The variety within the body about how things work. I mean, they generally work because, we generally have the same kind of functions going on, but how it actually works can be quite dramatically different. So that's what we don't realize. So the FDA has authorized the emergency use of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to prevent COVID-19 in individuals 16 years of age and older under an emergency use authorization. I don't care what the condition is for using it. This means they just lied to you in the previous statement. There's no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. It says FDA has authorized the vaccine to prevent COVID-19. Right there. It says exactly the opposite of what they just said. For more information on EUA, see the what is an emergency use authorization. I don't care whether it's for emergency or not emergency. If it's been authorized for use, it's been authorized for use. That means it's been approved. Now you may say, Ron, but when it's an approved, it's got the approval of the FDA, well, it's been run through all these tests and stuff and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I don't care about that. They've given their authorization. That is an approval. It's English language. If they want to use a highly specialized meaning to a word, that's their business. But when they're communicating with the public, they cannot use their highly specialized English where they've altered the meanings of things. This is my biggest complaint against lawyers and the legal system, is that they've completely created a parallel English that the common person doesn't understand. And then they expect the common person to be held accountable to this language. And so that's why we need to hire specialists even just to interpret it, not to protect us in court, defend us, but also just to interpret it. And this is the same to some extent in the medical industry as well. All right, so what should you mention to your vaccination provider before you get the vaccine? Tell them if you have any allergies, if you have a fever, a bleeding disorder, or on blood thinner. All right, so what does this tell you? When I look at these things, it tells me something about what I'm going to receive. That means that this thing that you're going to receive has a tendency to thin your blood and cause you to bleed. Because they want to know if you already have a bleeding disorder or you're already on something that's thinning your blood. But if it thins your blood further, then it can cause internal bleeding. Tell them if you are immunocompromised or are on a medicine that affects your immune system. Okay, again, that makes sense because it's a vaccine. A vaccine carries something from the virus that it's targeting. In this case, it's carrying a specific protein. It's going to cause your immune system to recognize that. That means your immune system is going to go through some sort of adjustment. And if you're already immunocompromised and it goes through this adjustment as well, you then become more vulnerable to contracting other illnesses during this time. Tell if you are pregnant or plan to become pregnant, because you need to know. If you're going to take this vaccine and you're planning on becoming pregnant, you should not take this vaccine. Tell them if you are breastfeeding. If you have received another COVID-19 vaccine, if you received the Moderna, even 1 dose instead of 2, or the full dosage, you need to tell them. Who should get the vaccine? FDA has authorized the emergency use of the vaccine in individuals 16 years of age and older. That doesn't answer the question. The question is who should get the vaccine? All it says is who's been authorized to get it, not who should get it. So they're not addressing that question. Well, should I get it if I'm elderly? Or should I not get it if I'm elderly? Maybe the vaccine is going to kill me because I am 80 years old. Or maybe I need to get the vaccine so that I don't die from the virus at 80 years old. They don't answer that question with this. That means they're just going through the motions of putting in something there without thinking about what the person reading it is going to expect. Who should not get the Pfizer vaccine? You should not get the vaccine if you had a severe allergic reaction after a previous dose of this vaccine, had a severe allergic reaction to any ingredient of this vaccine. All they do is they tell you what they've already told you. They're not giving you more information or useful information, especially in this regard of who should get it. What are the ingredients in the vaccine? Here's that list of ingredients again. And if you want to, you can go through each one and you can go like this, all right? So what is mRNA, right? You go, well, I recognize RNA from high school biology, but, ribonucleic acid maybe, DNA what is DNA? Do you remember? So see, you may not remember these things. So you got to go, all right, let's go ahead and copy and paste into the browser and have a look and see what we find. Okay. And so that would be here. And this is how you do it. Okay. I'm not saying I don't understand what that is. I'm just doing this so that you'll understand how to do this. All right. Ribonucleic acid is a polymeric molecule essential in various biological roles. And you say, that doesn't help me. What is polymeric? And you're right. That doesn't help. That's not a good definition because it doesn't explain what it is. It gives you more of this cryptic language rather than telling you what it is. Well, here's Wikipedia. They're good at dumbing things down, sometimes to, in a bad way. All right. So not to be confused with mitochondrial DNA. In molecular biology, messenger RNA, mRNA, is a single-stranded molecule of RNA that corresponds to the genetic sequence of a gene. It is read by a ribosome in the process of synthesizing a protein. You got a little diagram over here, very nice little diagram here. You got the cell, you got the nucleus of the cell, here's DNA, mRNA transcription, mature mRNA, which is a single strand. Okay. Notice this strand right here, right, is a copy of this. And then this goes out here, transport to the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the liquid out here in the cell. Transport to the cytoplasm for protein synthesis or translation. Okay, so from here, they're using this to create proteins. All right, so transcription is a process of copying a gene from the DNA into mRNA. This process is slightly different in eukaryotes and prokaryotes. If you remember, that's the difference between two different, these are like the major classifications of organisms, right? You can just point at it and it'll show you. Eukaryotes are organisms whose cells have a nucleus enclosed within a nuclear envelope. Okay, over here, prokaryotes. Cellular organisms that lacks an envelope enclosed nucleus. Okay, so we're talking about bacteria, for example, and viruses. Over here, we're talking about all other life, whether plants or animals. They've got a nucleus. All right, so transcription is the process of copying a gene from the DNA into our mRNA. This process is slightly different in these two kinds of organisms. In the kind with a nucleus in their cells and the kinds without a nucleus, like bacteria and viruses, etc., including that prokaryote RNA polymerase associates with DNA, and it gets too complicated at that point. Immediately, it's like, why go into that in this way? Because the general reader is not going to understand that. Only the medical professional or the biologist will understand what in the world you're talking about. And if they understand that, they don't need to read it. They already know this stuff. They're trained in this stuff. This is supposed to be written for the general public to understand, and it's not. Okay? But you can see from this diagram, from my description of it, what it does. So they're saying that there is some messenger RNA inside. Okay? So it says here, transcription is a process of copying a gene from the DNA into mRNA. So this mRNA that's included is a copy of the gene from the virus. It's a copy of a gene from the virus, from the DNA, the virus. That's what's included. So this mRNA that's been created here off of the DNA, this mRNA that then is transported out of the nucleus, if there's a nucleus, into the cytoplasm and generates proteins, this is what they're putting into you. This is an mRNA that is not even from the same biggest classifications of organisms. It's from prokaryotes being put into eukaryotes. You have no clue what kind of disaster you're introducing into your body in that case. This is why I will not take the virus or the vaccine against the virus, is because of this. Eukaryote and prokaryote, that is the most basic distinction of life forms that exist. That's the first level of distinction of life forms. With a nucleus in the cell, without a nucleus in the cell. Everything else comes from that. Over here, without nucleus in the cell, you don't have any plants, you don't have any animals, fish, birds, mammals, spiders, insects, none of them are over here. All you have over here are like bacteria and viruses. That's it. Over here, you have all of the other life forms, all of them. Everything that we see and interact with that's a life form is over here, the eukaryotes. And they're taking mRNA from over here, and they're bringing it over here and putting it in here to function as mRNA. It's a recipe for disaster. They should know better. They do know better. But they're doing it, and they're telling you to your face that this is an experiment because it's not approved by the FDA. And you saw earlier, if it's not approved by the federal authorities in that country, it is experimental. They call it investigational, to try to dissipate the fear over it. Rather than being honest and transparent, they're concealing it so that you're not appropriately afraid. Our responses are fight or flight. And if we are afraid enough, we flee. And they're trying to keep us from being adequately afraid so that we say no. Because we should say no. This is not an experiment. My body is not your experiment for your vaccines that you have no clue what you're doing. No clue. Eukaryotes and prokaryotes. What on God's earth are you thinking? Taking mRNA from a prokaryote and putting it in a eukaryote. It's the most basic distinction between life forms, to where all the life forms we interact with that we see are of eukaryotes. Not a single one of them are prokaryotes. And yet they're willing to play God like this. Play God with your own family, not mine. You do it to yourself, not me. Don't touch my family. Okay, that's enough. I think we've gotten deep enough to where you can see the problems that we're facing with this. I'm too upset anyway to continue. So I'm going to have to take some time to calm down and get in prayer with the Lord and ask him now, out of all this that's come up in this video, help people to understand and to take responsibility for their bodies, for their organisms, and for their families. And help me to know what to say and what not to say, and how to react and how much to react appropriately. Let me say this also. You should go down to the description and you should sign up on my BitChute channel in case YouTube takes down my channel because of this video or some other video. Then you'll still be able to get access to the videos that I produce. Got 280 videos so far. So we'll hit 300 probably within the next 2 months. So to keep access to the Rooted Word, of course, go to the website. I'm going to start linking to all of our social media accounts so you find them there. So definitely put that in your bookmarks, put it center focus so you have that. So daily you can go in there, even put it as your startup page if you want. We're going to change the front a little bit so that it's going to promote, not only so you can find the videos, but you can find the new hymns. We're going to put up all 53 of those again. And also the translation will still be accessible very easily from that front page. And then get to the BitChute and sign up there. And if you're not on BitChute, start an account, get in there, get involved. Because a lot of us who are being censored are moving over to BitChute or have already moved. I put mine up over a year ago. So it stopped synchronizing my YouTube videos. So I'm going to have to get in there and make sure all of those are uploaded there. I've got all of mine already on my hard drive anyway. I keep them there before I upload them. But unfortunately, I may lose a lot of comments. So I'm looking at the API for YouTube to see how I can go ahead and use the API for YouTube. This is like a programming interface where I can actually tell YouTube I need this and it'll give it to me. And then I can put that wherever I want, like in a database or whatever. So I'm going to try to get the comments off of YouTube that way so that I can then associate those with the videos, probably on the website. So I don't have to do this again in case another service goes down. So the comments will still be readable in the future associated with the different videos. But I'm working on trying to protect the work that's been done so far with the Rooted Word, even in YouTube, because there's been a lot of good work done there, and to make sure that it's available to you in a more reliable way. And I own the server where the Rooted Word is. So there's not the risk of that being shut down from the hosting like they've done with what is that, Parler, right? Where Twitter and Amazon are using their muscles as one conglomerate monopoly, to shut down dissenting voices against them that they don't like. And so Amazon has shut down the hosting for Parler simply because Parler is popular among Trump supporters. I don't use Parler myself, and I don't use it. I didn't vote for Trump or Biden because I don't want to be responsible for the sins that they may create. And so Parler's been shut down, but we're not in a situation where we would be shut down easily. There is a company that we buy this from that gives us the connection to the internet. That could be shut down, but that's not an American company. So we protected ourselves a long time ago. We don't depend on Google. That was an early decision of mine because of privacy and business security, right? So we use an email provider in Switzerland, and a very good provider called Proton Mail. I suggest that. If you want to get out of Google and out of Microsoft and out of all their products, I would definitely start looking at these places. There's also one called pCloud that's a replacement for G Drive, the Google Drive, and you can get a free amount of space. The email is free. So there are alternatives. I think we're going to make a page on the Rooted Word for that so that you'll be able to go and look at all the different alternatives that you can use to get out from under those large corporations like Twitter and Facebook and Google and YouTube. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart. Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them, and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.